Good morning, open heart, and happy Sunday. I am glad to be here today. I thank you, John, for reaching out to me and asking me to be of assistance or to be your backup today. I am so glad to do that. Thank you very much. Let us continue to hold space for the Gilmore family surrounding them with love and light. And let us just all take a deep breath in and out. Our theme this month is I own my mind. And so we're going to focus on the mind today, staying in touch with this theme. And my talk title today is Time to Renew Your Mind. And my text for today comes from Romans 12:2. Do not or don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what is the good, well-pleasing, and perfect will of God. Do not be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's what we're going to be talking about the rest of the time we have together, is renewing our mind. So let's talk about it. The power of the mind at this point is no secret. I mean, we have so many people realizing how powerful the mind is, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, the uber conscious mind, all those things, that the person and who we are is so much a part of our thinking, our thoughts, and our mind. But we've known this for a long time. The United Negro College Fund has told us a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Yogananda has let us know that he who conquers the mind conquers the world. And then Wayne Dyer telling us that you cannot solve a problem with the mind that created it. You must first change your mind. And again, it's that process of evolving, developing, and renewing your mind. And so let's have a quick talk about the capitalist American mind that all of us have. We are born here. It was drilled in us at least starting in kindergarten, right? Maybe even before then, that you're successful in this world if you have things. You have a house, you have a car, you have a spouse, you have a this and a that. And then what has happened with something as beautiful as The Secret and the kind of revelation of the law of attraction, we took that American understanding and merged it with the concept of manifestation. And so now I'm a really spiritual person if I have things, a car, a house. And so I'm not talking about that American or capitalism mind for showing how we live our lives and for being proof of your spiritual development, right? So I'm a very spiritual person, and so I have a lot of things. Well, Donald Trump has a lot of things too, but I would argue that he's not a very spiritual man, right? So things does not equal spirituality. And so renewing our mind is a process to which we can connect with our intuitive mind. I love this quote from Albert Einstein. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And then from our own founder, Ernest Holmes, the universal mind contains all knowledge. It is the potential, ultimate of all things. To it, all things are possible. And as we are on this path of science of mind, of Center for Spiritual Living, of unity, of new thought, even that word new thought means to have a new thought. You have had to do something new in your mind. And that this process is a season, it's an annual way of being. And so I want to invite us to reflect and embrace this season of renewal. So are you talking about spring? I am, but I'm also talking about this Easter season. Okay, no surprise, right, that the ritual, the life and death of Master Teacher Jesus would happen at Ostara, at the springtime, right? The seed is sown into the ground and then it would rise up. But just like there's Ramadan and there's a time of fasting, there's Passover and a time of fasting, that this sacred time to release, I'm get ahead of myself, to release and connect with our spiritual values, that as we are in this afterglow of Easter, that this is a real opportunity for renewal, and that this journey of the Easter season, beginning with Lent and ending on Easter Sunday, or really at Pentecost, the Sunday before Pentecost, is a real chance for us to release the ways of this world, which is ways of thinking, ways of being, and to connect with our divine mind, our intuitive mind, and to allow this chance, this beautiful season for renewal. So what is this journey that we see from the church calendar and then in the life of Master Teacher Jesus, his last week as recorded in the Gospels? Well, for the church calendar, it begins with Lent, right? You have Fast Tuesday, better go to New Orleans, get some beads thrown to you, and eat some beignets and whatever else you're going to give up, right? But to really have an idea that fasting is not just a physical discipline, but it can really be a spiritual feast. That as you're releasing those things that have kept your attention or get your focus away from your spiritual growth, that you have this capacity to feast and grow spiritually. And years ago, a sweet lady named Mimi said, well, I'm going to fast at Lent. I'm going to give up chocolate and coffee and meat. I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Right? Because you're going to kill all of us. Because you're going to want some sugar, some coffee, and some meat. And you're not going to have it. And you're going to come in and beat us all up. She just laughed about it. But it's like, what is the point of that? I remember a friend who, for Passover, they give up leavened bread. And, oh, my God, I can't have pizza. I can't have this. It was like horrible. Right, and for so many of us, you're just drudgery, counting down those days when you can have this thing you gave up. And that's not the whole point of fasting, even from food. But I heard a preacher say years ago that she stopped fasting from food because after Easter, she basically picked the stuff up again. But she decided that moving forward, that during the Lent, she would fast from unhealthy attitudes and from ways of being, and with the intention of continuing to release. Not to bring them back, but continuing to release those things, even after Easter Sunday. And this is an opportunity as we are on this journey of renewal to fast from gossiping, from judging others, from the illusion of perfectionism, from negative self-talk, from playing small, from fear of change, and staying in our comfort zone. That in this season of renewal, this is an opportunity to release those things, just like we cut the trees back so that they can grow anew. We prune the plants. This is a capacity to prune our spiritual selves and our physical selves and our mental, our thoughts and our mind, to prune it from those dead leaves, those branches that are sapping life but aren't giving life. And that one of the ways to do that, we're shown in this beautiful season of the church, is during fasting. And then we come to the last week where we step into Holy Week. And this is really the ground zero, the path of renewal. We begin with Palm Sunday. Jesus just raised Lazarus from the dead. I mean, of all his miracles, feeding the 5,000 and healing the woman with the issue of blood and healing the centurion servant and the man with the withered hand and the wedding, wine at the wedding, to raise someone from the dead. Wow. So he's just knocked out, like, here it is. I've done all these things, then boom, big one. And he comes into this town. He walks back into places where he hadn't always been received. But there is an acknowledging that as this young man, this master teacher, has stepped into his divine power, and he goes back into the presence of his enemies and goes back into a place where he is no longer the same as when he left, because now he is bringing the divine presence in, as, and through him. And there is an acknowledgement of that. People claiming, here he comes, the presence of the Lord, he who is representing the Lord. And then we move to Holy Thursday, or Maundy Thursday. I was like, what is Maundy? And then I found out that Maundy comes from the Latin word for mandate, because it's at this Passover Seder. This is what's happening at the Passover Seder, where we see that Jesus, we oftentimes talk about Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. But even more important, I would say, or congruent to that, he says, a new commandment I give you, take those 10, no more, you got one. Love one another as I have loved you, so you also must love one another. I think about all the crazy stuff that's been happening in Tennessee this week, or stuff that I consider to be crazy, expelling state representatives and banning gender affirming care and, making drag a crime. I think, where is this? You doing this because you're a Christian? These people feel that they're Christian or upholding some kind of Christian value. But I don't see love in there. And love is the crux of renewal. Begins with self-love and then loving one another. That love from that divine mind, that intuitive mind, that when you see someone or we see a situation, we don't just see what our human eyes, but we allow that divine intuition to give us the insight. And so Jesus is there. And he says, throughout these 10, I got one for you. Then after this great feasting, serving, commanding, then comes Good Friday. Came in the town riding high, had a great meal with your ride or dies, and they all gone. And you're facing your enemies. And they seem to have the upper hand. And so we have this beautiful time of the 7 last words where Jesus speaks. And so he shows that juxtaposition, that there are times that we're in the midst of that renewal, like when we're in that birth canal of renewal, that you say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. And, that these 2 other criminals, because Jesus was crucified as a criminal, he was executed by the state, by the government. And, they're like, dude, if you can do something. This guy's like, hey, don't be a jerk. This man is good. And he says, this guy, hey, we're going to be together in paradise. Again, I've got the faith. I'm speaking, right? I'm calling things that aren't as if they were. Let me take care of my mom. Woman, behold your son behold your mom, right? Gets that all taken care of. But then there comes a point where he's like, the heck, where are you, God? Why have you forsaken me? I'm thirsty. I feel the need. I am not fulfilled in this situation. But I release it like we did at the beginning, right? Release those things that no longer serve me. This is finished. I'm claiming the end. And then, oh, great divine Father, I give it up to you. Into your hands I command my spirit, because that is the true me. And so that path of renewal. I love this quote. Nails did not hold Jesus to the cross. Love did. And unless there is a Good Friday, there can be no Easter Sunday. And so that process of renewal has some hard times. Every woman who's had a baby knows that when you get the baby afterwards, it's like, oh, you're so cute. But there's those few minutes before, hours before, where you're like, what the heck, right? There is pain. There is trying to squeeze muscles that you don't usually work with. You're frightened. You're hurting. This is taking too long. What in the heck is going on here? You give birth to a new business. You give birth to a whole new way of being. There is going to be pain. There's going to be confusion and lack of understanding. That's the renewal process. But you have to follow the example, or I invite you to follow example of Master Teacher Jesus. He says, this is done, and I give it up to the Spirit. I've done my part, and I'm staying connected to the divine, but I release it. And then the season of renewal. With Easter. He is not here, he is risen. And the truth of that is that the person that they came looking for was not there, not just physically, but after that transformative process. He was not the same. And that for many of us, we've got to let that old person, put him in the tomb, and then be prepared to walk forward renewed. Rise up into newness. Rise up and to let those old ways fall away. I saw a quote that said that we boil Easter eggs because that hard shell is a sign that we've broken through from the inside and we're ready to release what is new. And then this quote that says, Easter is a time when God turned the inevitability of death into the invincibility of life. I invite you in this season, mind. Thinker, I'm the thinker of my thought. I am connecting with my mind, that intuitive divine mind. And to allow this season of renewal, spring is all around. The flowers, lilies like, oh, I can tell spring is here because the bugs are back, right? Everything is arising. Rise up. Let the life of the divine rise up. Let joy and hope rise up. Let the capacity to be and act in a new way, empowered by the divine, rise up. Step into this season of renewal by one, releasing old ways of being and doing. Bring and be the divine presence everywhere you go. Serve and love. Throw out those other rules. Love. And then, as always, rise up. Blessings and have a great Sunday.